Soon after the chimps had begun to visit my camp, the National Geographic Society, which was giving Lewis money for my research, sent a photographer to Gombe to make a film. Hugo van Lawick was a Dutch baron. He loved and respected animals just as I did, and he made a wonderful movie. 1 year later, in England, we got married. By then, I had left Gombe for a while to start my own studies at Cambridge University. I hated to leave, but I knew I would soon be back. I had promised Lewis that I would work hard and get my PhD degree. After I got the degree, Hugo and I went back to Gombe together. It was a very exciting time, as Flo had just had a baby, little Flint. That was the first wild chimpanzee infant that I ever saw close up, nearly 4 years after I had begun my research. Flo came very often to camp looking for bananas. Fifi, now 6 years old, and Fegan, 5 years older, were still always with her. Fifi loved her new baby brother. When he was 4 months old, she was allowed to play with and groom him. Sometimes Flo let her carry him when they moved through the forest. During that time, Fifi learned a lot about how to be a good mother. Flint learned to walk and climb when he was 6 months old, and he learned to ride on his mother's back during travel, instead of always clinging on underneath. He gradually spent more time playing with his 2 older brothers. They were always very gentle with him. So were other youngsters of the community. They had to be, for if Flo thought any other chimps were too rough, she would charge over and threaten or even attack them. I watched how Flint gradually learned to use more and more of the different calls and gestures that chimpanzees use to communicate with each other. Some of these gestures are just like ours, holding hands, embracing, kissing, patting one another on the back. They mean about the same too. And although they do not make up a language the way human words do, all the different calls do help the chimpanzees know what is happening, even if they are far away when they hear the sounds. Each call, there are at least 30, perhaps more, means something different. Flo was the top-ranked female of her community and could dominate all the others. But she could not boss any of the males. In chimpanzee society, males are the dominant sex. Among the males themselves, there is a social order, and one male at the top is the boss. The first top-ranking male I knew was Goliath. Then, in 1964, Mike took over. He did this by using his brain. He would gather up 1 or 2 empty kerosene cans from my camp and hit and kick them ahead of him as he charged toward a group of adult males. It was a spectacular performance and made a lot of noise. The other chimps fled. So Mike didn't need to fight to get to the top, which was just as well, as he was a very small chimp. He was top male for 6 years. The adult males spend a lot of time in each other's company. They often patrol the boundaries of their territory and may attack chimpanzees of different communities if they meet. These conflicts are very brutal, and the victim may die. Only young females can move from one community to another without being hurt. In fact, the big males sometimes go out looking for such females and try to take them back into their own territory. As the months went by, I learned more and more. I recorded more and more details when I watched the chimpanzees. Instead of writing the information in notebooks, I started to use a little tape recorder. Then I could keep my eyes on the chimps all the time. By the end of each day, there was so much typing to be done that I found I couldn't do it all myself. I needed an assistant to help. Soon, with even more chimps coming to camp, I needed other people to help with the observations. There were always more fascinating things to watch and record, more people to help write everything down. What had started as a little camp for Mom and me ended up, 6 years later, as a research center, where students could come and collect information for their degrees. I was the director,